Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we sit down with real investors doing real deals and uncover what's happening in today's market. And today I'm joined by Gabriel Mercado, a realtor, investor, and an operator who's not just building wealth through deals, but also building a full concierge investment services for his clients as well. He currently handles deals in Cleveland, Ohio, but he's planning on expanding into other markets remotely as well. So thank you so much for joining us on this Real Talk, Gabriel. Could you please introduce yourself and give the audience about a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I appreciate you introducing me, Dion. My name is Gabe Mercado. I'm a local real estate investor here in the Cleveland market. I operate with a few different agencies and companies. I work as a primary acquisitions man for a company called Sold Simple Property Solutions, where we do a lot of turnkey flips. But I also run my own company, Omnia Homebuyers, where we source direct to seller leads. And we also work with investors, obviously selling them those off-market deals that are discounted and ready for an investor. What's cool about us is that we also have the financing piece right behind it, where we really prefer to work with our lenders on our deals. So we can get you financed on our deals. That way you don't need to come with full cash, And then also we have contracting in-house, project management in-house. So we can be a full tailored solution to help an investor buy a property that's in distress, stabilize it, and get it prepared to either sell or place a tenant, which, as you know, is the whole entire hard part in investing, getting to a new market and trying to figure all that out on your own. You do have it all in-house and ready to go.
That's amazing. And I feel like you're one of the very few who have mastered both on the real estate side as well as in the real estate investment side. So basically the moment you realized you just don't want to just sell properties, but also own the system that helps others invest.
Yeah, absolutely. So, self-enrichment is really important because you can't pour into other people's cups until you pour into yours and have something to pour, right? I feel like as an investor myself, I've built a lot of relationships in the area that I've really firmed up those relationships over time by providing work to them, making referrals, things of that nature. Selling deals is cool and it's very transactional and you can make a lot, obviously being transactional in real estate deals. But the main thing that drives me is building relationships that last with investors. Because when I sell a deal to someone, what are you really doing, right? You're doing one deal and that's it. I think it's really important to continue the wheel and continue the flow of the transaction because there's always going to be that next step. What else needs to be done? And if I can be a tailored solution and really give investors peace of mind, knowing that things are getting handled how they're supposed to get handled, the moment they buy a deal from me, I think that's a very big value add that not only establishes and creates longer and more fruitful relationships with those investors, but also what it's doing is it's creating predictability and people want to continue to work with you because you're providing more value outside of just a deal.
That's amazing. So obviously you've been in the market for quite a while, right? May I ask how long have you been in this game for?
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate market since 2018. I was licensed as a realtor, which was when I started to kind of dabble in real estate. I really didn't go all into real estate until about 2020 to 2021. Pardon me. And around that time, as you know, the pandemic had kind of changed a lot of things in a lot of different markets and it slowed down interest rates and things like that. But when interest rates went up, a lot of people continued to buy in these cheaper markets. So I saw people coming here to Ohio from other markets and it presented a massive opportunity to me. And since then, I've just continued to work, in real estate. So it's been roughly 7 years now. Well, we're going on 7 years here shortly because it'll be in November. So in about a month from maybe 2 weeks, it'll be 7 years of me in real estate.
That's amazing. Congratulations. So when you look back at those early days, right? So what would you say were one of the biggest mistakes that you made, but still a lot of new investors still to this day, they keep making it?
Yeah, a big one is time wasting. You don't want to waste your time on opportunities that really aren't opportunities, right? I think using a system like closure control, for example, has really helped me with being able to vet out potential sellers and talking to people who actually want to talk to you. We offer a unique service when we're in the wholesale side of the business or the novation side of the business. When you're an investor directly marketing to sellers, they usually have unique wants and needs. So that's kind of one of the big things that I want to make sure I'm talking to someone that I can potentially fulfill those wants and needs, which would be a smoother transaction without having to do pairs or anything of that nature. There are a lot of people out there like that. And what I've realized is working in particular systems and processes that I have now in my business limits my conversations with people who are really not worth my time. And I think that, you don't want to waste your time selling on someone who isn't necessarily ready to buy. And it's the same thing with us. We're not necessarily trying to pitch our services to someone who's not really interested in selling.
Oh, that totally makes sense. So I want to know a little bit more about your team size. I know you mentioned you have a couple of business partners who are also in the same business as you, but is it just one business or do you guys have multiple businesses you guys do together?
Yeah, so I'm a part of multiple different businesses. I'm the main person in my wholesale business, but when it comes in the concierge portion of it, where I'm continuing to provide services and things like that. But as far as my flipping goes, I have a few different partners that I work with that allow us to do well over just 1, 2, 3 flips a month. We're doing 5, 10 a month. Mm-hmm. So it allows us to have high scale on a lot of different properties throughout the area when you have a bigger team. So that's a different business that I'm involved in. But as far as real estate in general goes, you definitely need to have teams when the time comes to have teams, right? And sometimes you need to build the team and then eventually the business will, ramp up where you need the team anyways.
Totally true about that. And I think the part where you said because of the fact that you have business partners and a big team, your guys are able to close 5 to 6 deals a month, right? But what exactly would you say is the one system or routine that keeps your deal flow steady, even when the market gets kind of unpredictable?
Yeah, one thing that's really important for me that I've found is through the ups and downs of the markets, you have to just be very aggressive on your acquisition. And I think understanding the market and explaining and educating those things to other people is how you can truly get deals done. There's way too many instances where sellers kind of seem as though they are educated, but they're taking information from quite some time ago. And as you and I both know, real estate's a marketplace that changes on a daily basis. So it's hard to take someone who might think they understand the market from 4 or 5 years ago and look at a comp that sold on their street 4 or 5 years ago and use that now. Sometimes you have to explain that and really use your expertise to instill it in the seller or client you're working with. I think that has been something that has allowed me to make deals in every market, whether we're in a high interest rate environment or a low interest rate environment, even a low inventory environment or a high inventory environment. Those types of things are really important.
I think that's thank you for opening my eyes on that particular side. I think that really gives, more of me as well as the viewers a pretty good understanding on how to actually manage certain expectations, especially even when the market gets unpredictable. And I think a lot of people who I've talked to, they always, real estate always have a season. So I think October, November, December, that's kind of like the off season. You don't see a lot of deals happening. The business kind of gets slowed down. But have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah. No matter what, I think the market is going to fluctuate and there's going to be times where things are more hot, less hot, whatever you name it. But ultimately, I think what's more important than worrying about the consistency of a market is worrying about what you can control, and that's your consistency. You're hitting the phones every day, having good conversations, making offers, learning more every day, talking to people in your marketplace. And that way you don't have a one-dimensional understanding of things. You can get other opinions because a market is a general marketplace. I can't buy something without selling it to you. And you can't sell anything without me buying it. So you have to talk to each other, talk to your peers that are in the industry. You show up with your best foot forward every day. No matter the market will reward you when it's doing really good. Will make more than you might have expected. And then sometimes when the market is a little bit squeezing you down, tightening you down a little bit, as long as you're setting your best foot forward, you're still going to survive. Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of people quit prematurely. And if a hard market makes someone quit and that's your competition, you'll be fine. You just have to have that grit and that drive to show up every day and put your best foot forward.
That's amazing advice, Dave. So speaking of the different markets, I know you primarily do deals in Cleveland, Ohio. Do you have any plans on just sticking to that one particular market or expanding out into a little bit more other areas as well?
Yeah. So one thing that I've been discussing lately is potentially getting into the Northeast Florida market regarding like Jacksonville Florida, that area. There's a lot of upside in that area. I do find a lot of investor activity. It's pretty affordable still for Florida, as you and I both know. Those areas have increased in value significantly over time, kind of making them unfeasible sometimes, and like rents don't go up fast enough for the values to kind of make sense. But Jacksonville has slowed down a lot in the past few months, where it's presenting a lot of opportunities for investors to come in and buy at really good prices. So there's a good chance I go there. I have people there right now, actually. My business partner on my lending portion of my business, he's down in Jacksonville and he's an investor as well. So, it helps when I already have a stable of a bunch of real estate investors that are buying using our investment loans, ready with cash, ready to go. They just need leads and deals. So there's a good chance to potentially move into that market. I think it's nice to have a little bit of a network in whatever market you go to. And if you don't, you still need to build that, right? But it helps to already have something like that. So I can potentially be moving into a Pittsburgh market that's very similar to Cleveland here. And then Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, those are kind of the main I'm eyeing right now.
I mean, yeah, that really makes sense. And I think a couple of other areas which I want to cover is you talked about creating a concierge investment service, right? So what exactly are the gap you're trying to fill by basically implementing the service?
Yeah, so one big thing that people have problems with in this particular market, it seems to be a common theme. People don't have people don't have contractors that will give you the fair enough investor pricing, but be punctual enough to show up and get the job done. I think that I've taken years and years and years of experience here, had good contractors, had bad contractors. I know what that looks like, and I'm not perfect and I don't think I've figured it all out, but I certainly do have guys that can get the work done for really good prices and get it done right the first time. That's important to an investor who might not physically be here, right? That's a big gap that a lot of people I think there's a lot of margin for error there because, when it comes to doing a rehab project and you need it done timely and you need it done fair price, that's an expertise in itself that a lot of investors might have more money and not knowledge in the construction side of the business that we can provide for them and give them a hands-on, it's done, it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's really resting assured an investor who might be scared to invest in a market because they don't have the systems in place to get a rehab done in 2-3 months. We can get that done in 30-45 days, and then, that makes you much more profitable on your investment. And it may or may not just want you to continue to invest in real estate, right? In general, like if you buy one deal and your first deal goes bad, are you really going to invest again? Essentially not. I think, having someone who can walk you through the process from buying a distressed home to rehabbing it, placing tenants, and then refinancing potentially, or whatever the case might be, we can do everything for you. So I think that's a really important solution for people, especially if they're not experienced in real estate and or have those connections in place in whatever market they're in.
So it's sort of like a guidance system too, right? For a lot of the new wholesalers who want to get into the market. Would you say it's at the same time sort of like a guidance system, or?
I couldn't necessarily say the same for other wholesalers, simply due to the fact that a lot of wholesalers kind of start wholesaling as an intro to real estate investing, and no one's path is the same. But my particular path to real estate investing was also through wholesaling. But once I started doing some fix and flips, then I started building contractor connections. Once I start doing more fix and flips, I need more contractors, right? 1 or 2, I might need some more guys. So my point here is that other investors might start with wholesaling and not have the full understanding of how to do a real estate deal, from rehab to placing a tenant to finding a property manager, and then ultimately refinancing out of the hard money loan into a long-term debt. Those types of things can't necessarily, it's not consistent that wholesalers have this experience, and realtors most likely don't have this experience either. It has to be someone who's done it over and over, or has an infrastructure of people who are doing it over and over and have access to it. I can't speak for everyone else because, truthfully, I think that we offer a unique solution that isn't necessarily commonplace right now. You don't see this in the marketplace that often, where somebody's selling you a deal with the construction and the funding to get it all done.
I think it's going to be an amazing service. I think once you launch it. So what's the timeline like for you to get that service up? Do you have a time?
I mean, we have everything in place right now. We're really just legitimizing it and putting it into a marketable format, a brandable format, right? So the branding and marketing on that is not necessarily in place right now. But if any investors want to reach out to me and invest in the Cleveland market, even if it's not a deal that I'm potentially selling to them, we do have contracting services and lending services where we can help them take a deal down. We can pay assignment fees. Wholesalers, if you need a deal funded, call me. We fund in all 50 states. So if you guys ever have a deal where somebody needs funding for it, give me a call. I'd be happy to take a look at it and make you guys close more deals and make sure your buyers have legitimate funding that's not going to fall through on the last day before closing.
Well, guys, you heard it. So obviously, if you guys are doing any deals in the same market, just reach out to Gabe. I'll make sure to put his Instagram on the video as well so that you know who to reach out to.
Hey guys, it's been a pleasure.
And one last final question. What's the one piece of advice you would give out to the younger audience if they are just starting out in the same game?
I have a really good one. And this is something I just thought about a few days ago myself. Patience and urgency get confused for each other. I don't think you really need to be patient when you're first figuring something out. I think you need to be urgent to try as many things as possible and fail potentially as many times as possible. So that way you figure out what works faster. So being urgent and then being patient is how you really yield results, as opposed to being patient and confusing your patience with potentially procrastination. You know, I think a lot of people would benefit much more professionally and personally if they were much more urgent and serious about getting things done right now, as opposed to tomorrow or the next day or the next day. For all that, just go serious about your goals and actually put the work in every single day. That way you can go to bed knowing that you're trying your absolute best.
Well said. Well said. Well, there you have it, folks. Gabriel Mercado handing out amazing advices. At the same time, a true veteran in the real estate game. So he's not just doing wholesaling. He's also a realtor. He's an investor. He has other services, which is in the concierge real estate investment services. He's doing so many stuff at the same time. So obviously, this has been such an informative session. Thank you so much, Gabe, for being part of this. And that's it for this week's Real Talk. So tune in next week where we're going to be coming up with new guests, with new episodes, talking about new insights. And that's it for today, folks. Thank you so much.